appreciate your doing this. Especially since we don't have as much time as we originally
Yeah, sorry
thought.
about that.
Oh, it's me. Country meets city in me all the time. So people have been talking, using this word a lot, change.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing that I'm asking is, the first thing I'm asking is, when you say, or don't, when you say the word change, what do you mean?
Uh-huh.
What do you mean?
Yeah, so I've been thinking just since we were sitting in the car about what I really don't use the word change. I mean, I'm sure I use it in sentences, but as a concept to hold on to for the times, or as a motivational tool, or as a source of inspiration, because I do feel like we're on a collective journey, and that it's really important in our culture, as people who are enculturated, to think of ourselves as individuals, to pay attention to what's going on collectively. But paradoxically, I also feel like each of us is on our own individual journey. And for me, change comes from each of us maturing spiritually. So it comes from us learning how to love and appreciate ourselves, and recognize ourselves as aspects of the divine, and shake off whatever self-hate or other hate we have picked up in our family of origin, or our societal oppressions, or whatever. And so I sometimes I see us moving forward as, like, evolving somehow as a species, but I also sometimes wonder, I'm of divided inner personalities about it. Like, a part of me really feels like, yes, we're evolving, we're growing. I want to inspire people to come together and create a better world. And I need to think in that way in order to have life force. And at the same time, sometimes I look at the cycle and I see, wow, a child is still born into a family where they're abused. A child is still born to a parent who uses drugs. But, like, all the things, wars are still happening. Genocide is still happening. All the things that I see as kind of the core wounds or damaging moments, traumas, they're still happening. And so there's still people starting again from the point of having to recover from that. And for me, so much of my optimistic vision comes from kind of like the idea that you can recover from that, and that what we're able to create when we come together from not a completely recovered but a somewhat healthy place is really the magical beloved community. But I don't feel like we can create beloved community from the place of still being in those wounds and not having started on the healing journeys from them. So I sometimes think, who is this God, or what is the divine plan, or, how is it that it's still happening? These horrible, traumatizing things that I think really hold us back, they're still happening afresh to people all over the globe all the time.
And conspiring against change, would you say, or?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I would say that when I hear people say change, especially in the time of the Obama administration, it's a hopeful idea that we're moving beyond what's held us back in the past. We're moving beyond, for example, empire. Like, if you take Joanna Macy's work, or David Corton's book, where it's like from empire to earth community, right? Like that whole, I want to have a bumper sticker that says from empire to earth community, because I feel like that just says that's the change, that's the turning, that's what we want and need, to see ourselves as an earth community, and to stop trying to get ahead individually in isolated ways, or as the elite cream slice of the economic top of our culture. But I feel like those things I feel like those traumas hold us back, because many, many people who are perpetrated against then perpetrate. I mean, usually you either perpetrate, or you remain in structures of being victimized, or you find some source of healing.
And it's the finding some source of healing that leads to change, or?
That leads to our ability to come together as a people, which is what I think the change that needs to always be happening is that we love ourselves, and in loving ourselves we love each other, and that we love each other, and in loving each other we love ourselves.
Right.
That kind of loop where it goes back and forth. But I'm not sure that I see that as linear or happening now, or just kind of a movement that I always want to be giving my life force towards that might always be like the tides.
So in that way, it's not change, it's just the natural unfolding.
Yeah.
It's just what is, and
Right.
what is this natural unfolding that holds the negative stuff and the positive stuff. I want to just follow what you're saying.
Well, in a way it's a natural unfolding, but I also think there's a way that if we weren't trying to create or amplify goodness, then what is would kind of be even worse. If we all let ourselves fall prey to like our, I don't want to set up. I was going to say our most primal desires, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to set up this thing like nature bad. I don't want to do this mind-body split of like primal is bad and brain thought-out strategies are good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are forces, some people would call it evil, but I think there's an energy that is not life-giving. And that, whatever tells me to eat too much chocolate, or wouldn't it be easier to get high, or, that's kind of, that whisperer is out there for all of us with different kind of volume going on. So it doesn't feel like totally the natural ebb and flow, because I feel like we do have to commit. We have to make a choice and say, you know what? Chocolate sounds great. Being stoned does help me laugh and forget about, the things that are hard. And, what would be deeply fulfilling for me would be to help somebody see their divinity today, or to help feed somebody who's hungry, or to, even if I just make a millinano, bit of like movement towards all of us caring about each other a little more, providing for one another, or noticing how we're unconsciously racist, or just, isn't that really more satisfying than watching TV, which I still do more than I'd like to. So it does feel like there's a commitment, there's a turning in each one of us, and sometimes in each moment. And also a way of being gentle and saying, I'm not only divine, I am also human, and maybe it's okay to watch TV for an hour, or eat a chocolate bar, or even get high, depending on who you are and what your history is,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, so, all right, so putting change, not putting it aside, but in this context of this, let's try another term. What is it, do you see as, these days, as important to have constant, to have the same, remain the same, or,
That's an interesting question. I think a lot of the values, the really sort of stodgy American foundational values, are actually still really inspiring. And the problem hasn't been that we have them. The problem has been either that we haven't lived into them, or that sometimes we pretend that we're living them when we're not. So, the idea that each person is created equal, the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I think those are still really inspirational. There are ways you can tap into those that are inspirational. I think having a notion of the divine, I think that sometimes the ways we conceptualize that or frame that might need to change. But the idea that there's something bigger and greater than ourselves, I find that useful. But I also know a lot of people who do really good work without having that.